And now, the best 60-ish seconds of your week.
And here we are, Saturday morning between Friday the 13th and the Ides of March, and awaiting St. Patrick's Day. So we're just hoping that the luck of the Irish is with all of us rather than any of the ominous things that might have come from the other two dates. And focus this week has been on the war with Iran and the market prices that have resulted because of the so-called shortage of supply of energy. And it's interesting to note that the Strait of Hormuz, which Iran is shutting off, really doesn't affect the United States the way it once does. This isn't the 1970s or the 1980s anymore. Less than 5%, roughly 3% of our oil flows through that strait. China is much more directly impacted than are we. And another good thing, most of our oil and strategic petroleum doesn't come from the Middle East anymore. It's homegrown. That drill, baby, drill stuff really does work. And energy seems to be an important topic these days, as a lot of folks, understandably, are very concerned about the rapid increase in electricity prices. Through the PJM, which is where I live, energy costs for electricity increased 56% last year. That's a rate that few can reasonably and easily afford, and it's not likely to go away. The key, of course, is increased production. When the demand, particularly from AI and other these big data centers, increases and the prospects of rolling blackouts in the summer, continues to mount, increased productivity is the key. We've done so well with petroleum, we've got to do it now for electricity. So increase energy, more power for all. And who would have thought that the right-thinking Americans would be agreeing with Bill Maher increasingly, but this week he came up with a really good one. Adam Schiff, that nutty senator from California, was on with him, and he was bemoaning the fact that Donald Trump had overstepped his constitutional authority by ordering the strikes in Iran, which took out their leadership, a really good thing for the world to knock out the leadership of that incredibly repressive regime. And Maher asked him if he agreed with a statement that he read about presidential authority. And he said, absolutely not. That's crazy. That's nuts. And Bill Maher said, well, that was Obama back when he wanted to take on Libya. So the hypocrisy of the left is once again in full view. And in a related story is the story of failure to salute the flag. Now, we have a real problem with that when our athletes don't want to salute the American flag, but a group of Iranian soccer players, female soccer players, refused to salute their flag this past week at the opening ceremonies in Australia. They ultimately decided to seek asylum there in Australia, and it took a phone call in the middle of the night, 2 a.m., from Donald Trump to the Prime Minister of Australia to ultimately work things out and provide for those women a very difficult choice because they're leaving their homes, their loved ones, and they have great concern about what that repressive regime might do to retaliate against them through their families back in Iran. But they made the choice to seek freedom, to seek a better life, and to get away from an incredibly repressive regime. So please say a prayer for each one of them. And the left, as they are bound to do, had their panties in a wad this week over the Department of War ordering some steak and lobster for our troops. How silly do we get? In a budget that is gargantuan, they're worried about what the troops are eating. And I got to say, steak and lobster might sound extravagant, but for those that are putting their lives on the line for us every day, I'd say it's a small price to pay to simply say thank you in a very tangible way for what you do to protect our freedoms and our way of life each and every day. And let the left eat cake. And St. Patrick's Day is upon us, and you might get a little bit of the blarney here every once in a while, but there's not much Irish in me except every March 17th. So to my Hibernian and Irish friends, Erin go bra, I hope it's a great day for all, and we'll close with a little clip from the most famous Irishman I can think of, and certainly my favorite, because for now, that is the best 60-ish seconds of your week.
St. Patrick, as we know, was the historic man of God who, with passion and strength of conviction, converted the people of Ireland to Christianity. I have a deep and abiding respect for the accomplishments of St. Patrick, an individual who was able to turn the head of the entire Irish race. Having done my best these last 6 years, even on the minor issues, to convert the likes of Senator Kennedy and Speaker O'Neill. I can only stand in awe of such a man.